Hello, amazing students. Welcome to English with Sophie. There is a layer of English that most learners never reach, not because it is too difficult, but because no one ever explains that it exists. It lives beneath the surface of ordinary conversation, operating quietly inside sentences that feel simple on the outside, but carry completely different meanings depending on the single word chosen. Native speakers navigate this layer automatically, without thinking, without effort. They feel the difference before they can explain it. And that feeling /U 2014, that invisible, almost unconscious precision /U 2014, is what separates someone who speaks English from someone who truly understands it. Most English courses never address this layer. Most textbooks pass right over it. And so most learners spend years believing they have mastered something that they have, in reality, only partially touched. The lesson that follows is about that hidden layer. It is about two words that appear nearly identical, that are used in overlapping situations, and that most learners treat as if they mean the same thing. They do not. And the moment a learner finally understands the difference, something shifts permanently in the way they speak, the way they listen, and the way they are understood. Opening. Two words, both used every single day, both placed in sentences that sound almost identical. And yet, a native English speaker who hears the wrong one in the wrong moment will feel something is off, even if they cannot immediately explain why. That subtle wrongness /U 2014, that tiny feeling of misalignment /U 2014, is what this lesson is built to eliminate forever. The two words are looks and seems, and the difference between them is not grammar. It is perspective. It is the source of your information. It is the type of observation you are making. And once that difference is fully understood, it changes not just how you choose your words, but how you read people, describe situations, and navigate conversation with accuracy and confidence. Part 1 /U 2014, the foundation. Begin with a simple image. A classroom on a Tuesday morning. The desks are arranged in neat rows. Fluorescent lights run the length of the ceiling above. Near the front of the room, a woman named Sarah stands at the whiteboard with a marker in her hand. She has been teaching English for 11 years. She knows her subject completely. But today, she is paying close attention to something specific /U 2014, not the grammar on the board, not the vocabulary list she prepared the night before. She is paying attention to a student named Marcus, who is sitting 3 rows back, slightly to the left of center. Marcus arrived exactly on time this morning, which is unusual because Marcus is almost always early. He placed his notebook on the desk. He opened it, and then he stopped. He did not write anything. He did not look around the room. He simply sat there, his pen resting against the page, his eyes directed somewhere slightly above the whiteboard without actually focusing on it. Sarah looks at Marcus from across the room, and something registers in her mind immediately. She says nothing yet. She continues the lesson. But the thought stays with her, and it takes this precise form. Marcus looks distracted. That is the word she reaches for without hesitation. Looks, because what she is doing is observing physical evidence. She can see his pen not moving. She can see his eyes not tracking the board. She can see the stillness in his posture where there is usually energy. Everything that forms her conclusion is visible. It is in front of her. It is available to her eyes. And so the word she uses, either in her own mind or if she were to speak it aloud, is looks. He looks distracted. That sentence is grounded in direct visual observation. Now hold that image and add a layer to it. Later in the same class, Marcus raises his hand and answers a question. His voice is steady. His answer is technically correct. But there is something about the way he pauses before speaking, something about the way he finishes his sentence just a little too quickly, as if he wants to end the moment rather than live inside it. That tells Sarah something different. Something she cannot point to on his face or identify in his posture. Something she is reading from the combination of his behavior, his timing, his energy. And now the sentence that forms in her mind is slightly different. It is not he looks stressed. It is he seems stressed. Because this time, the conclusion is not coming from what her eyes are capturing. It is coming from what her experience and instincts are interpreting. The source of information has changed, and therefore the word changes with it. This is the foundation of everything that follows. Looks is connected to the eyes. It is the word you reach for when your conclusion is built on visual evidence /U 2014, something you can see directly, something that is physically present in front of you. Seems is connected to interpretation. It is the word you reach for when your conclusion is built on impression, behavior, energy, or a combination of signals that cannot be reduced to a single visible thing. Both words describe a perception, but the type of perception they describe is different, and English carries that difference faithfully, word by word, sentence by sentence, every single time. Consider a few more examples to make this absolutely clear. Imagine you walk into a bakery. On the counter, there is a tray of fresh pastries. They are golden. They are layered. They have a beautiful texture on the surface. You have not eaten one yet. You have not asked anyone about them. But you look at them and you form an immediate conclusion. You say to yourself, those look delicious. You are making a judgment based entirely on what your eyes are registering. The visual information /U 2014, the color, the texture, the shape /U 2014 is driving your conclusion. That is exactly what looks is for. Now change the situation slightly. You are at a dinner party and someone mentions a restaurant across the city. They describe the atmosphere. They talk about the portions. They mention that 3 different people told them the food is remarkable. You have never been to this restaurant. You have never seen the food. You have no visual information at all. But based on everything you have heard and the pattern you are recognizing, you form a conclusion. You say, that restaurant seems excellent. Not looks excellent. Seems, because your conclusion is not coming from anything you can see. It is coming from a layered interpretation of information you have received through other channels. The source is different. The word is different. The sentence feels exactly right. This is not a minor distinction. It is a structural difference in how English maps observation to language. And once a learner internalizes it, they stop reaching for looks in every situation out of habit and start choosing between the two with intention and precision. That precision is what makes speech feel natural, because native speakers are already doing it unconsciously. When a learner does it consciously and correctly, the effect is the same. The words land right. The sentences sound true. The communication feels clean. Part 2 /U 2014, DEPR territory. Now that the foundation is clear, move into the territory where these 2 words begin to interact with real complexity. Because in everyday English, the difference between looks and seems is not always dramatic. Sometimes the gap between them is subtle, and in that subtlety is where genuine fluency lies. Return to a different scenario. A corporate office on a Thursday afternoon, the kind of building where the floors are carpeted in gray and the walls are lined with glass. A man named Daniel has just walked out of a meeting room. The meeting ran for 2 hours. His colleague, a woman named Priya, is standing near the window with a cup of coffee in her hand, watching him walk down the corridor toward his desk. From where she is standing, she can see that Daniel's tie is slightly loosened. His jacket is draped over his arm instead of being worn. His walk is slower than usual. Based on what she can see /U 2014, the posture, the pace, the loosened tie /U 2014, she thinks to herself, he looks exhausted. That is a visual conclusion. The physical signals are present and readable. But now imagine that Priya was not in that building at all today. She has been working remotely. She has not seen Daniel in person. However, earlier in the morning she received 3 short email replies from him /U 2014, replies that normally would have been longer, more detailed, more energetic. And during a quick phone call, she noticed that he answered her questions with less precision than usual, as if he were conserving something. Based entirely on this pattern of behavior /U 2014, not what she saw, but what she sensed through interaction /U 2014, she thinks, Daniel seems exhausted today. Not looks, seems. Because the conclusion is being built from behavioral evidence rather than visual evidence. The distinction is real. It is the same conclusion, but it arrived through a different channel, and English tracks that difference precisely. Now here is where the lesson deepens further, because there is an emotional dimension to this distinction that is equally important and that most learners never encounter. The word seems carries within it a natural degree of uncertainty. When you say someone seems a certain way, You are implicitly acknowledging that you might be wrong. You are reporting an impression rather than a confirmed observation. You are saying, based on what I am reading from this situation, this is my interpretation. And that built-in humility changes the social weight of the sentence. Compare these two sentences carefully. You look upset, and you seem upset. Both are said to the same person in the same moment, but they do not feel the same. The first one /U 2014, you look upset /U 2014 points directly at physical evidence. It says, I can see this on your face. It is almost accusatory in its certainty. The second one /U 2014, you seem upset /U 2014 holds more space. It says, I am picking up on something, and I am nomming it carefully, but I am also leaving room for you to tell me I am wrong. That softness, that openness, is part of what seems carries naturally. And in human communication, that difference matters enormously. Choosing seems overlooks in a sensitive moment can be the difference between a conversation that opens and a conversation that closes. That is not a small thing. That is the craft of language doing real work. Now take this further. Think about how these words interact with the structure looks like and seems like /U 2014 two expressions that appear constantly in natural English, and that follow the same logic as the words they are built from. When you say it looks like it is going to rain, you are basing that conclusion on something you can see. You can see the sky. You can see the quality of the light. You can see the way the air feels heavy with moisture that is visually present in the atmosphere around you. The conclusion is visual, and so looks like is the right structure. But when you say it seems like he is avoiding me, you are not basing that conclusion on something you can see directly. You are basing it on a pattern /U 2014, a series of unreturned messages, a missed lunch, a short greeting in the hallway that ended faster than it should have. You cannot point to a single visible thing. You are interpreting a pattern, and so seems like is the right structure because seems carries interpretation. This matters in practice. Learners who use looks like for everything end up making sentences that feel slightly wrong to native ears, even when the grammar is technically correct. They say things like, it looks like he does not want to talk to me /U 2014, when they have no visual evidence, only behavioral evidence /U 2014, and native speakers hear something slightly misaligned in the sentence. Not incorrect in the way a grammar mistake is incorrect, but misaligned in the way a word choice can be. It fits the slot but does not carry the right meaning. And fixing that kind of misalignment is exactly what this lesson is designed to accomplish. Part 3, /U 2014 tension in detail. Go deeper still. There is a scenario that illustrates the full power of this distinction in a way that nothing abstract can match. Picture a university seminar room, 10 students, a long oval table. A professor named Dr. Chen standing at the far end of the room, near a whiteboard covered in annotated text. The session is about language and perception. Dr. Chen is not lecturing in the traditional sense. She is guiding the group through a series of observations about how language shapes thought. She places two sentences on the board, side by side. The first reads, the solution looks promising. The second reads, the solution seems promising. She steps back. She waits. She lets the students look at both sentences. Then she asks the group a question. She asks them to identify what is different. Not grammatically different /U 2014, they can all see that the only change is the verb. But what does the difference mean? What does it imply? What does it reveal about the speaker who chose each word? A student named James, sitting near the middle of the table with his arms crossed loosely over his notebook, says that the first sentence sounds more confident. Dr. Chen nods. She asks him to go further. He says that when you say something looks promising, it sounds like there is evidence in front of you, something you can see or measure, something concrete. Dr. Chen nods again. She turns to the board and draws a line under the word looks. She writes above it, based on observable evidence. Then she turns back to the group and asks about the second sentence. A student named Fatima, sitting near the window with a pencil in her hand, says that seems promising sounds more cautious. It sounds like the speaker is not fully sure. It sounds like they are making a judgment based on incomplete information or based on something they cannot directly verify. Dr. Chen smiles. She draws a line under the word seems and writes above it, based on interpretation or impression. Then she steps back and looks at both annotations together. Observable evidence. Interpretation or impression. She says, this is not a small difference. This is the difference between a scientist presenting data and a scientist sharing a hypothesis. Both are valid. Both are necessary. But they are not the same thing, and language /U 2014, specifically this distinction /U 2014, preserves that difference faithfully. The room is quiet for a moment. Then James uncrosses his arms and leans slightly forward and says something that Dr. Chen has heard before, because she has taught this lesson many times. He says, but sometimes you can use either one, right? And the meaning is basically the same. Dr. Chen does not disagree. She acknowledges that overlap exists. She says that in many situations, both words are grammatically acceptable and the meaning is close enough that the difference may feel minor. But then she says something that changes how every student in that room will think about this from that point forward. She says that the difference is always there, even when both options seem /U 2014, and she pauses on that word deliberately /U 2014 acceptable. The question is not whether you can use either. The question is which one is more accurate.